is that? Oh my God, what is that? Oh my God!
And if you found this recording, you have to share it, or it'll be after you too.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum, and welcome to an episode of Found Footage Fridays, a series where we talk about found footage on a Friday. Today we're doing a Found Footage Friday interview for, if you're a Patreon member, you get this a little before the movie releases, but for a very brand new, just about to release found footage movie. So today I'm joined by Thomas Halle, who is the writer-director of a brand new found footage movie called The Red Box Project. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. How about you?
Good. I'm doing pretty good. Struggling through the work week, but this is the fun
Right,
stuff that I get to do in the meantime. So it kind of makes up for
absolutely.
it.
Love it.
Yeah. So we are going to jump and talk about obviously the film, but before we jump into trailer and we talk about the film and release, I did kind of want to do a little bit of a get to know you and talk about
Yeah,
kind of how you ended up in filmmaking and how this project came to be.
yeah, sure thing. Absolutely. Let's do it.
Yeah. So did you start in filmmaking? Have you done shorts and other things before, or is this your first kind of venture?
I have most of them who haven't seen the light of day, of course. I think that's something that's kind of recurring, right? For
Yeah.
filmmakers, like you do
Yeah.
something and then you watch it back and you go, wow, this can never be seen.
Yeah.
But no, I've been around the cameras and a lot of post-production work and many different
Okay.
things, from film work to audio work, a lot of audio work as
Oh,
well.
cool. Okay.
Some animation, some video games. I've been around the block a little bit.
Okay. Okay.
So obviously the Redbox project was not like my first thing,
Okay.
but it's the first thing that I'm kind of like really officially releasing. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And so this is going to check a lot of boxes, I think, for a lot of found footage fans, I would say, because when
Right.
people get to see this, we were fortunate enough to watch a screener. So Mike and I did get a chance to see it a little early, but it has so many different things
It
coming
does.
from found footage styles. So I kind of wanted, are you like a big found footage horror fan? Is that kind of where this
Yeah,
came from?
absolutely. I remember how I discovered found footage. I think one of the
Yeah.
popular answers is going to be, oh, Blair Witch.
Blair Witch
But
Project.
me, my first experience with found footage was Cloverfield.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. And I
Oh,
thought that
okay.
was
That makes
absolutely
sense.
brilliant. I loved
Yeah,
it. And
yeah.
yes, I guess you can tell there's a
You
bit of
can
a bit
kinda
of that for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
And it's a movie that always stuck with me.
Okay.
Um, so it's not
Yeah.
that I'm like I only watch found footage or anything, but it's really
Yeah.
something that stuck with me. And then, other movies that really inspired me. Obviously, Blair Witch is a big one, I think, for
Sure.
a lot of us. But
Yeah, of course.
Rec is a really
Yeah,
important one
that's a
for me
great
too.
one. Yeah, that's a
And
great
just
one.
these sorts of movies, this sort of tension, the shaky camera feeling, the darkness. I
Yeah.
love when we film something and the cameraman sees something that we don't because it's too dark. Because the camera sees something the way
More.
sees things
Yeah.
differently than what we actually see with our eyes. So I
Yeah.
always love that sort of tension.
Yeah, I think found footage is a great subgenre of horror to do that because it
Yeah,
also adds that level of realism where what you're experiencing as the viewer feels way more realistic because of the way it's being presented to you. So it's been like I've been a fan of found footage my almost my entire life. So anytime we get a chance to work with found footage filmmakers, we're always like even more excited because it's just the subgenre of horror that we just have
yeah,
such a big passion for. Um, so I'm gonna play the trailer,
cool,
so everybody can see it, and then we'll kind of jump into release information and just some other things I want to talk about the film. There is a lot to unpack, I will say, but we're gonna keep it super clean and no spoilers, of course, because this is brand new. It's not even out yet. So, okay, so here's the
awesome.
trailer for the Red Box Project.
So it's true. All of it. The red box. Tell me your secrets. The devil walks among us. The great dragon was cast out. That old serpent called the devil and Satan, which
deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. An angel of light. Satan in disguise. The devil walks among us.
Already knew! This is evolution!
I had not actually watched the trailer. I jumped into the movie blind. That's so well done. It captures
Thank
so
you.
many things that I want to talk about. That means it won't be spoilery. Yay. Um, So this releases on Found TV. If you're a
Yes.
Patreon member, you're getting this interview 2 days early. So this will release on Friday. If you're watching on YouTube, it's out today. You can go watch it on Found TV. I kind of want to talk about where this idea came from. It's a crazy idea, and I love
Yeah.
that the trailer does not give too much away because it really doesn't. So I want to dive into like where this idea came from, the Red Box Project.
Yeah. Whoa, stop, flash. Yeah, the Red Box Project. That's something I started writing, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh, okay.
I I have explored caves and stuff like that for when I
Okay.
was a kid with my mother and other things, and I always
Yeah.
thought that they were so impressive yet so creepy at the same time.
Yeah, for
I'm
sure.
not a claustrophobic person, but I could imagine that someone who's claustrophobic
Yeah,
probably could not.
yeah,
And you always see these sorts of stories, or these videos on YouTube of people that do cave diving and that
yeah.
sometimes feel that they're stuck and
Ugh,
they can barely
yeah.
breathe. So I just hate it, right? And
Yeah,
that's why I wrote about it.
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
think as a filmmaker, especially in horror, I think you need to write about things that actually scare you, things that you wouldn't do. I wouldn't do what the characters are doing. And
No.
that was what was so fun to explore with these characters in the story.
Yeah.
Um, but how it came to mind, I mean, I was, like I said earlier, I was working a lot on audio work, on audio
Yeah.
dramas and stuff like that. We also produced a show called Cabin Tales that's been
Oh, okay.
ongoing for a little while, that does a lot of horror stories. It's like an anthology.
Oh, that's
And at the beginning, I was kind of like writing it for that, but then I
oh,
was seeing too much how should I say this? Too many possibilities
mhm.
visualized that we could explore with
Yeah,
it, and then it kind of like
yeah,
transitioned to this movie idea that we decided to
yeah,
do.
yeah.
And that was really fun. That was exciting to then kind of like rewrite with that in mind, and that's why it's been ongoing for so long. The writing process took so many years is because it kind of went from one thing to another thing, and I think that actually reflects in the movie itself because there's so many different aspects that we explore,
Yes.
and I think that was so
Yeah.
fun about it.
Yeah, I agree. So one of my big things, it's kind of like I call it like a subgenre
Yeah.
in found footage, but I just started getting my co-host into analog horror because I
Ah.
think analog it's like found footage movies. It's got some not so great, experiences, but overall I think analog is a really cool concept. It's very
Yeah.
experimental. It does a lot of really random cool shit. And so as you can see, I think just from the trailer, this feels very analog in some moments, not completely, not as an entire picture for sure, but
Yeah.
it's got those notes in it that it's so interesting to hear you talk about the history and the audio because as I'm thinking about certain things, I'm like, well, that makes sense because the audio is a really big driver in how you feel as a viewer when you're experiencing the
I
Red
agree.
Box Project. And the sound is really cool. There's a lot of really
Thank you.
neat things that you were able to accomplish. So that's really cool. Does analog horror something that you like as well? Like, was that
Of
definitely
course.
intentional? Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a lot of inspiration in it.
Yeah.
I've also worked briefly on a few analog horror series here and there, so I kind of
Oh,
like wanted
love
to
it.
represent my roots a little bit, of my
Yeah.
internet horror pals, and a lot
Yeah.
of the cast in the movie also worked on analog horror and other stuff. So we wanted to kind of like give a bit of an homage to that with some elements in the movie. I think without giving spoilers, there is a
Sure.
segment called like a PSA, sort of like how training 101 thing in the movie. I thought it was
Yes,
great.
I love it.
That's definitely what we were trying to do there, and I think it's a pretty fun one.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah,
definitely analog horror. If you enjoy analog horror, I think you'll find something for you in
I
there
agree.
because that was definitely an inspiration.
Yeah, I the training video things that you're talking
Yeah.
about were very Fallout, and I'm a gamer, and I'm a big
Yes.
fan of Fallout, so
The
when it
Pitbull, right?
the first yes, exactly, so when the first one came up, I was like, "Hold on a sec." I'm telling you, it checked a lot of these boxes that I think again, I went into this very blind, I didn't watch a trailer, I didn't really know anything about it at all,
Mm,
which sometimes, especially when you're talking about found footage, I do think is probably the better way sometimes, to
yeah.
go into things. But when I got to that first one, I was like, this has so many like little things for me, like as a person. I'm like, this checks this box and this checks this box. And the way it came together to tell a much bigger story, I thought was really cool.
Thank
Um,
you.
and I mean, it's very chaotic in the best of ways.
It is.
Like, I have to kind of ask, like, when you're talking about something that is a chaotic storytelling, how do you approach making it as cohesive as you were able to do?
So I mean, it was with intention. We wanted
Sure.
the movie to feel raw. We wanted the
Yeah.
movie to feel like it's not just a fan footage film, but it's you literally found things about the story here and there, and you all
Yeah.
bring them together. So
Yeah.
we have documentary segments, we have cinematic segment, we have audio,
So
we have
many.
recordings, we have pictures,
Yeah.
we have found footage, we have many different things, and that was
Yeah.
the goal to try to like gather things from everywhere because in any sort of mystery in life, you're never going to find all the answers in a singular spot. Like the
Sure.
answer is that way. No, you need to know that the answer is that way. You looked here and you looked there and you looked there and you found things that helped you. And we wanted to do that. Um, and that we gave ourselves that challenge. And I mean, the movie is what 1 hour 20, 1 hour 30,
20
but
something, yeah, yeah.
we wrote for like a 3 hour, 4 hour thing. We wrote lore for
Oh, wow,
everything,
okay. Yeah.
and we just selected pigments of that, so that's how it worked all together because we rewrote the story four
Yeah.
times for every segment.
No, I love it. That part of it, I think, really sells the overall idea of what it's about, I think, because,
Hmm.
there's plenty of clean, like very straightforward, spoon feeding kind of storylines where it's very black and white. And that's not
Which is
that
great.
those obviously aren't great too, right? But this is
Absolutely.
definitely something I think upon maybe a second watch or a third watch or maybe even a fourth and fifth, you're going to notice things and pick up on things that you absolutely missed the first time around.
Definitely.
And that's cool because again, I'm going to go back to analog because it's something that I think is kind of an untapped market with found footage. I don't know that everyone
I
draws the
agree.
lines between the two. Like my co is a big found footage junkie, not very well versed in analog at all. We started his adventure with analog with the Greylock tapes, and
Yeah.
that is an insane series to start somebody with, but it was one of them where the well known, and there's certain parts in the Red Box project that actually kind of reminded me of there's a specific segment in the Greylock tapes. I keep thinking I'm saying it wrong. Greylock tapes where you're hearing these stories of these phone calls from these construction workers, and obviously very different stories, not the same thing at all, but just that pool of like those things that I think are just very well done, and they're so different from a
Yeah.
lot of the same, story in the woods or story in the, and then you add the cave element, and it's like spelunking is terrifying. You will absolutely never catch me in a cave ever.
Huh.
Um, but it was very Descent, right? There's scenes in this or
Right.
segments where there is that fear of things that are outside of, it's just survival stuff. It's, well, how are we gonna get out of here? Or what if we're hurt? Or what if we get stuck, like you said earlier, and it's dark? And I am actually pretty claustrophobic. I think I can handle it
Mm.
to an extent, but it definitely exists for me. And so there's things like that that come through, and it was just it's a crazy array of things for sure,
Yeah.
all kind of tapped into one. Um, I guess like there's so much to unpack. I'm trying to think through some of the things that I want to say that aren't giving too much away because I don't want to talk too much about I want people to go watch it. But were there specific challenges? Like, did you have to edit this yourself, or did you have people work with you on the editing side to kind of get everything there with like the sound and the videos and the clips?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I edited about 85% of it.
Yeah, I figured,
Um,
especially if you have a history with audio.
yeah, I mean, I did a lot of that, right? I do a lot of post-production work, and the movie, as you say, is so uh calculated but chaotic
Yes,
that
yes.
I had a very specific vision. And
Okay.
it's a vision that is hard to explain. Once you see the
Yeah.
movie, you can kind of get it, but like it's hard to explain to someone that that's what you want to do. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously, I managed a lot of the work there, but without giving too much about the plot, there
Right.
is something specific about the movie, something that you see towards the end, right? A bit of a build up
Yes.
about
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
That part, I didn't do it. I was working with the amazingly talented Thorn Baker, who is this fantastic 3D artist and modeler, and he worked very hard on the concept and everything. And we spent a lot of time thinking about what this thing should be, and
Yeah.
it was so fun, such a fun challenge to work with, and that without him, like that, it wouldn't be the way it looks. So he did really great. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, it's a small team. We were a
Yeah.
couple, maybe around like a six or seven, eight, I don't know,
Yeah.
that worked on the
Yeah.
movie or so, like a small little thing, but it's all made of passion and love, and we worked really hard to make it the way it looks, the way it sounds as well.
Yeah, I think it comes through. And I have to say a lot of the sound stuff specifically with like
Yeah.
conversations that we're hearing but maybe we can't see and those kind of things, like those the people involved in the acting portion or maybe in some instances just the voices were really really talented. A lot of
Yeah.
times, found footage is obviously typically lower budget and sometimes the
Hmm.
acting alone can really make, elevate the experience or even take it down, but I found them all to be extremely believable. There was never
Awesome.
like a moment where you question the relationship dynamics or like you feel like you just kind of fall into it naturally, which I think is really helpful when you start getting to, the scary stuff, right? The stuff that
For
starts
sure.
creating panic and tension and building all of these moments. Were these relationships or characters based off of anybody in real life, or were these things that just kind of came to you?
Not based off anyone that I know. It's just
Yeah.
characters that I believed in, characters that I thought would be together as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes as filmmakers, we tend to make sure when we create characters to
Mhm.
get not stereotypes going, but archetypes that are quite
For
clear
sure.
for each and every
Yeah.
one of them. And we really want to
Yep.
separate them so that everyone can relate to a different person. But sometimes when
Yeah.
you look at that group, you're like, would they really be together in a sense? Would they be
Yeah.
friends? And
Yeah.
how we made that work is we have like with again without giving anything, we have one character that's a bit more of an outsider, and the other
Yep.
three that are friends, but he is related to one of them, and
Right.
brings him in, and four of them now work. Um,
Yeah.
when it comes to the acting, I mean, obviously the cast was great and super
Yes.
talented, but I'll say they also worked really hard. It was a lot of
Yeah.
hours, a lot of retakes, a lot of reshoots, a lot of things
Oh,
to do again and
yeah.
again to really get it going. So when you hear the actors being tired and exhausted and emotional, there was a
That's
bit of
real.
that. I'm not gonna lie, a lot of hours in
Yeah.
the booth there.
Yeah.
But it was a great challenge. So yeah, I mean, my hat to the cast,
Yeah.
Tyler, Billy, all the main leads there.
Yeah.
Very amazing.
Yeah, they did a really good job, and I think believability is such a big deal in these sort of immersive experiences, like what we're getting with this film specifically. And I think, like I said, the dynamics were just so believable and they felt natural. So
Yeah,
when things shift or dynamics change or the environment around them is suddenly not as what they thought it was before, you're sort of just already invested enough that you buy into it. There's never like that question
yeah,
of reality, like does this actually make sense, which is another thing that happens a lot in found footage because we're always like, why are
mm.
we doing these things? I think that because this is done in such a way, the way that it's filmed and the way you utilize sound and different types of found footage, I guess it's very it works really well to avoid altogether the question of, well, why are we still filming? Like you don't have to ask that question because I don't really feel like the film gives you an opportunity to.
Hmm.
And I think the way that you kind of cultivated the whole thing also gets rid of like certain other things. Like I am typically not a fan when found footage movies have music, but if they're edited or they're put together in a specific way, then it makes sense. It works. And there's
Right.
music in this. There's examples of that in this where you're not questioning, well, why is there music? It just works because it's a different type of story that's being told. And you did mention you had to do retakes and things with the sound stuff specifically, because there are times where we hear characters, but we don't necessarily see them very clearly on
Yes.
camera. Were those things that were done as just voice, or did they have to kind of act that out to be able to get the? Because some of this is like screaming, some of it's like arguing or trying
Yeah.
to talk to each other to figure stuff out. And it feels like you can almost see them going through the motions, but in certain parts you can't.
Right. Um, yeah, I mean, most of it, I'm not gonna lie, everything that you see that's kind of like off screen, off camera, most of it was done in the booth. But
Okay.
that's also because these actors are like really trained for voice work specifically.
You can tell.
I knew, yeah, and so they
Yeah.
really know what they were doing,
Yeah.
and that's why it sounds the way it sounds. But they also had a lot of context to the story and a build
Yeah.
up,
Yeah.
like we talked about, like they worked really hard to get that sound out, to get it going, and
Yeah.
could not be happier with the result. And that's something that we wanted to do with this movie. Is a lot of the time found footage, you're gonna hear the word slow burn.
Oh, yes.
Um,
Yeah. True. Yeah.
this one is, but not in the way you would expect. I think the
Yeah.
movie starts quite quickly. I
I
think
agree.
15 minutes in, you're like, okay,
Yeah.
it's going down. But the
Yeah.
slow burn is in the the character's diminishment, like the character's
Yeah.
emotional arc. They
The way that
slowly
changes.
fall into madness, and we wanted to slow burn that emotion, that build up,
Yeah.
that angst, and that's what the actors really worked on hard, very and with me, and
Yeah.
I think it worked. I
I
think
do.
it's really good.
I would. I know. I agree. I think yeah, the found footage formula is nothing, 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 and then the last 15 minutes are batshit crazy, and there's a lot going on, and you're like, oh my god,
Yeah,
trying to
which
keep
is
up.
great, which is great.
Yeah. No, for
Uh,
sure.
we just
Um,
wanted to give it a different twist to it.
But this feels, I guess, like, maybe not so overwhelmingly tension to start, but there's definitely tension even in the very beginning, the way that this starts out,
Yeah.
and I think that that is a steady build because you're trying to figure out, at least for me as a viewer, what the hell does that have to do with what's going on over here, and what does that have to do with this over here, and it creates this level of engagement where you're just like, you're just invested. You're like, "Oh, I have to figure it out." So that I think is
Mm,
also what helps build it into a um a slow burn that feels engaging. You don't
yeah.
feel removed or disconnected, or you're not like checking like, okay, how much longer is this movie? Which is another thing. I think the runtime on this is great because found footage movies are typically not meant to be 3-hour movies, you know?
Yeah.
And there's a couple of examples of ones that are longer and they do work, but a lot of times that runtime can, if you add too much, if you don't take enough out, then it can kind of ruin the experience. But I
Hmm.
think you did nail that part for sure. I think you're right. I think it
Thank you.
works. I think you get the initial introduction to our main people that we're going to spend a lot of the film with, and you get used to their dynamic, and then you're getting other pieces of information. You start to build a story, and then it's something happens that's a bit of a turning point, and then you get to this bigger stuff kind of at the end, but it
Yeah.
never felt like it lulled. Like there was no like, is anything ever going to happen? Like that wasn't something, because there is so much going on and so much information to process. And it's again,
Yes.
it's really well done in that regard. I really did like that part about it. It checked a
Thank
lot
you
of
very much.
boxes for me for sure.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much. You should you should describe my movie more often. Oh my God, this is perfect. Couldn't
Yeah,
say it better.
and a lot, and it's funny because Mike and I have very my co-host and I have very different taste in found footage movies, and a lot of time,
Yeah.
genuinely, and I can't say this enough, genuinely, this is really unique. And I think that
Thank
that
you.
is terms of course. And I think in terms of this going out or coming out on Friday or today, if you're watching on YouTube, and you go see this, I think that's going to translate really well for viewers because I think people are going to look at this very unique experience and say, damn, like there's not really anything else that matches this as far as concept and execution. We get a lot of the same stuff in found footage
Mm,
to the point where it's like it makes you wonder if you're ever going to get anything good again. And then you get breakouts, and you get, especially in the indie world, I think the best stuff comes from indie filmmakers, and that's something I've
Yeah.
always felt. And I think that that truly is the case with this. This is very, very unique. I think when people see this, there are going to be people that connect with it, and people who really love it and are going to be grateful that it's not somebody running around with a camera in their hand in the woods, not knowing what's going on. I
Yeah.
think they're going to be grateful for an opportunity to experience something different. And with any luck, maybe it'll push people to check out analog horror more, because again,
Yeah,
very
I
under.
hope so. I hope so.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I hope analog horror fans who do
yeah,
watch it kind of actually somewhat feel seen, with this.
yeah,
Hopefully I kind of like scratch that itch a little bit.
yeah,
If not, but I mean, it is what it is. I think it's definitely, like you said, a unique film. We took big swings with it. We tried
yeah,
things. So if it connects, great. If it doesn't, like it's fine. But I think giving it a
yeah.
chance is the most important part here, and I think it deserves it. I think
I
it deserves
agree.
at least a chance. And
I
it's one of
agree.
those where if you don't catch it from the get-go, then watch it again. Watch it again because there's so many things that
I
are hidden
agree.
left and right.
No, I totally
And
agree with that. Yeah.
you know,
And this is going to be, is this only going to be on Found TV?
it's premiering on Found TV.
It's premiering on Found TV.
As for the future, who knows
Who
what the
knows?
future holds? But I spoke with the people there. The team is amazing, and I just
Ugh,
felt like it
we
was the
love
right
them.
fit. Just felt like it was the right fit. I was looking at the catalog, and I was speaking with Louis and everything, and
Yeah.
I was sold. Like that's the home for Redbox. I'm so happy that it's starting there, and let's see where it
Yeah.
goes from there. But it fits right in. I'm very, very
It
happy to see that.
does. Yeah, and I think that Monica and Louis, what they're building with Found TV, because
Yep.
Mike and I actually got to interview them before Found TV launched. So before it
Really?
kind of grew into yeah, like that's our little bragging moment. But because they're just doing such good things. But I think what
They
sticks out
are.
to me about that platform specifically is they actually really care about the community and the
They do.
filmmakers. And when you try
They
to
do.
sign your movie with like Amazon and I'm not a filmmaker. This is just, I have friends that are filmmakers, and this has been their experiences that they've shared.
Mhm.
They want your soul. They want everything that you have just to post your movie for you. And there's nothing like there's just no integrity or passion for even the genre, let alone for the people who create it. So,
There's definitely a little more sense of a community with Found TV, I
yes.
think.
Yes.
And I think that's what really attracted us to that platform as well. And like I
Yeah.
was saying, I was looking at everything. I was looking at the catalog, but then I was seeing, all the creators and everyone that was so invested to talk about the
Yeah.
things. And I was
Yeah.
so excited to the idea of being a part of that. And it's like you said, found footage horror is a thing that's been going on for a long time,
Long
and
time.
there's a
Yeah.
big loyal fan base.
Yeah, for sure.
And I know Redbox Project might be a little divisive when it comes to the old school fans of that genre. I know it's very
Oh,
different,
yeah.
um, but that's great. I'm still happy to be here. Still happy to give something
Yeah.
new, see what happens, and
Yeah.
just like absolutely, that's exactly where I want to be. And I love
Yeah.
myself a challenge, and we're really proud of what we did.
Yeah, and I think you should be. And I think
Thank you.
I'm very excited to see people start reacting to it when it releases,
Yeah, me
because
too.
I think like Found TV is the hub. That's where everybody goes for. It used to be Tubi. And
Right.
then because that used to be like, and I feel like, more and more they're like, oh wait, people actually like found footage. We should stock it more. So like you're starting to get it, on some of these other platforms as well. But Tubi was like it. That's the only place you could get stuff. But
Mm,
Found kind of came in and helped, I think, make that a little better, especially for indie filmmakers. And because they end up
yeah.
with the most obscure stuff too, the stuff like I've never even heard of. And I love it
That's
because
great
like
though. That's
no, it
awesome.
is. It is. It is. And I've been a found footage fan for a really, really long time. So I love that more people are discovering it and falling in love with it and seeing, what I've been saying pretty much about it all along.
Could
So,
I pitch the question? Could I pitch the question back to you? Could I ask you what kind
sure.
of like got you into found footage?
Yeah. Found footage. So I watched, I do have a slightly cliche answer. So was alive when the original Blair Witch Project came out, but I was way
Yeah.
too young to have seen it. I was pretty little. And so I watched it. The first time I ever watched the Blair Witch Project was back in like 2000 and I think 9. And I
Right.
watched it. I had never seen anything like it. And I watched it by myself. I had just moved out of my parents' house because I was like 18 or 19. And I did have a roommate, but they weren't home. And we literally lived in the middle of the woods. And I watched this movie in the dark. And I just remember this.
Perfect.
Like, I know, right? But also scary. Like, what was I
Yeah.
doing? I probably had nightmares for a month. But it was one of those things where I think what captivated me was how something fictional. Of course, this was after I missed all of the kind of marketing that was done around it. So there was no question at this
Yeah.
point. Everybody knew that it wasn't real, blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
So, but the fact that I could care so much about these characters in a horror movie, and I felt like this was real. Like there was so many times where I had to be like, no, no, it's not real. It's not real. We know it's not real now. Like I could Google it at this point, right? But it was one of those things where it was so captivating. And then you fast forward to like Paranormal Activity,
I was going to mention the
obviously.
exact same thing.
Yeah, so Paranormal Activity came into the picture, bigger budget, bigger project. Everybody
Yeah.
was talking about this damn movie, everybody. But then, weirdly enough, because I don't, I probably people would probably fight me for this because I guess it's not technically found footage, but I love sci-fi, and I think sci-fi and horror are just like a match made in heaven. I've always thought
Yeah.
that. And so I watched that movie, The Fourth Kind, the alien mockumentary style film, and
What?
it sort
Yeah.
of kind of brought me back into the different ways that found footage could be done, but all of it revolved around the same thing. It felt real and it was scary, but it was like weird to be invested in characters in horror because up until that point, I was watching mainstream stuff like Scream, where you're like, I mean, I guess you care about the characters, but you're talking about characters that like you're not going to cry if something bad happens to them or be devastated. But in found footage, that investment shifts because it feels so real. And so it just became an immediate big thing for me. And then
Yeah.
because I now have, you know, the community that I am very fortunate to have built over the years of doing content creating, I'm able to find things that I never seen before, like Ghost Watch. I watched that for the first time just a couple of years ago, and it's incredible. And it's just all
Mm.
these avenues that you can go. I mean, we're seeing films made with, you know, CCTVs and drones and Ring doorbells. And
Yeah.
then, you know, obviously, like there's the analog stuff, and it just creates just such a unique experience as a viewer. And I think as much as
Absolutely.
I love horror, I think that that's the best subgenre as a whole, whether it's monsters, ghosts, people, whatever. So that was my very long-winded answer. Sorry.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. I love it. I love it. Cannot agree more with almost everything there. I
Yeah.
was not aware of Ring horror movies like through the doorbell. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Never thought about that. That's a good idea
Yeah.
though.
It is. It
Like a
is.
stalker
And now,
movie or
oh, and
something.
body cam stuff, we're getting that stuff now.
Yes.
A
Yes.
lot
That
more
too.
of the advancement in technology has really opened up possibilities for people to create. And of course, there's always that fascination with like anybody can make found footage. And that's not to say that it's
Yeah.
easy, because I do not mean that at all, but it's such an opportunity for people to film make that maybe wouldn't have an opportunity to do something with a bigger budget or, you know, that
Definitely.
kind of thing. So,
That's what's so great with found footage is you can literally use anything to record, and then in post-production you can kind of get whatever you
yeah,
want. Or you could literally
yeah.
buy like an old camera for like
Mhm.
$100 and then shoot it
Yeah.
there, and it looks authentic because it is.
Mhm.
Definitely a genre that allows you to experiment and just do things and go wild. It's why I love it. I think it's why we all love it.
I agree. Yeah. I don't ever get asked questions. I'm glad I had an answer. That wasn't too difficult. Well, cool. Well, I am excited to see what people said or see
Me
like
too.
what they say about it when it comes out. So, again, if you haven't been seeing the promos and stuff going around as of today, if you're watching on YouTube, this is on Found TV. You can watch it for free with ads. And otherwise, you know, don't miss out on it. If you like found footage, God, and I can't say this, if you like analog stuff, I really think this is going to be a big hit with analog fans. I just do. That's my prediction for for when this goes out. People are going to be like, "Oh my God, I love analog horror. This is like right up my alley." Um, So yeah, well, thank you for making time. We did this
My
like
pleasure.
we got this in like right before the release.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
appreciate you making the
Happy to
time
be
to
here.
do it. Yeah,
And,
of
thank you
course.
for the accommodation, and thank you for
Of
inviting me
course.
on your show, and
Yeah.
interacting with the community. Super happy
Yeah.
to be here. Super happy to be
Yeah.
a part of it, and
Yeah. We're
just
happy to
really
have you.
excited to see the response to everything.
Yeah.
And
No,
we
me
really
too.
gave this our all, and I'm excited for you guys to see it.
Yeah. Yeah. Us too. Well, cool. So I'm gonna put your socials and where everybody can find you in the description for this
Yep.
episode as well.
Cool.
But yeah, everybody spend your Friday. It's Found Footage Friday. Go watch the Red Box Project on Found TV. I don't think you'll regret it. So I think that's gonna wrap up this episode of Found Footage
Yep.
Fridays. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. We appreciate it. Have a good rest of your day. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you in the next one.